strategies. He's been doing sales he did sales for over 30 years, and then really felt that he's got it locked down, and he's been teaching people all over the opportunities of selling smart. So go ahead, Eddie, come on up, and he's going to...
Thank you, Leandra. I got to say, I'm really impressed with all of you, because usually standing up in front of people like you all did and talking about what you do, I mean, you guys are all passionate about what you do, and usually that's a very scary thing for people to do. So I'm impressed that all of you guys did that very well, and you're all obviously selling something, right? We're all selling something, so pay attention. Probably never thought you'd see this in a sales presentation, but you're going to. Oh! I'm not a professional. Let's try again. Thank you. We'll try this again. Well, we'll stop there. Anyway, so I juggle. The reason I juggle is because we are all juggling. I mean, juggling is really the perfect demonstration to talk about sales. So all of you, and myself included, we all have, this is a great visual demonstration. So we all have large potential clients. We all have large clients, hopefully. We have small and medium. And what we have to do in sales all the time, every day, is we have to be organized and we have to be able to follow up. These clients and potential clients are constantly juggling. And so you guys have the same issues with your business. So keep that in mind. What are we going to do next time we talk to this client? Are we organized, and do we really have all of our ducks in a row as far as what we're going to do next time with that client? And when do we follow up with this medium or small size client? And how do we prioritize those things? And most people, I have found, I've been in sales for 33 years, and I've worked with a lot of people. I've gone to a lot of sales meetings and things like that. I've been with a lot of companies. I actually am in the flooring business primarily. But people learn about their product or their service, but they really don't get sales training. And they say, oh, well, you'll just learn that kind of on the job. So I want to work with you guys on sales training, and I'm happy to work with any of you, by the way, free of charge. And what I want to do is, in my business is I meet people free of charge, because if I'm a consultant or a coach, whatever you want to call me, you guys don't know me very well. I don't know you guys very well. So I want to learn what your business is all about. So we're going to meet for coffee or come to your office, whatever, and I want to learn about your business. And then I want you, then after I've learned about your business, I can talk to you about the things that I can do to help you in your business. So those are the first things I wanted to talk about. And demonstrations is the next thing. So I got up here and I juggled. Sorry I didn't do it perfectly, but I'm not a professional juggler. I highly suggest that you guys come up with a demonstration for your business, for the products or service. If you just go tell somebody, you know, I sell this or I provide this service, that's fine. But if you do a demonstration like I did, there's really three things, or probably more, that it really does. First of all, you guys are still awake, and nobody's fallen asleep yet. So it keeps the attention of your audience, which is a good thing. The second thing it does is it makes me, in this case, memorable. If you remember nothing else, just like that guy came out and he wasn't a professional juggler, but he juggled and he did his best in front of all these people. And usually I don't drop it, but I did. I'm better with three similar objects. The third thing that it does for you guys is when you have can show a benefit through a demonstration that you do. So whatever business you're in service or product that you sell, if you have something that shows the benefit of that, a long time after the client leaves or the potential client leaves, they will remember that. So again, you guys will remember this for a long time. So think about demonstrations, and if you're interested in me working with you, I can work with all of you to help come up with some kind of a demonstration for you. The other thing, I'll also teach you how to juggle. Of course, you're going to say, I don't really want this guy to teach me. I didn't do a very good job this morning. But I do know how to juggle 3 tennis balls. I can do that for probably 10 minutes or so. It's a good psychological thing to learn, and it's something fun that you guys can do, and most people think, oh, I can't juggle. First of all, who knows how to juggle? Anybody know how to juggle here? You guys know how to juggle? Okay. Does it make you feel good that you know how to do something that most people can't do? Sure. Not really? Kind of. Okay. Okay. Well, our brains always want to learn new things. I mean, it's good to be always working on new things. So anyway, I'll teach you guys how to juggle. Again, I'll meet free of charge with you guys to work with you and to listen to what you have to say as far as your business, and then I can explain to you the things that I can work with you as far as organization, follow-up, the psychology of sales, and I'm going to talk about those things right now. So my passion is making your sales system fun and profitable. So I have my system that I've used for 30 years. Some of you may think it's crazy, antiquated, whatever. So I will explain to you the system that I use to keep organized in my brain, how I follow up with all of my clients. We all have different brains. We all have different psychology. Psychology is a huge part of selling, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So I'll explain to you my system. That'll give you some ideas, and then together we'll come up with a system that works for you guys, because there's always prospects, there's always clients, and you always have to have a follow-up point with every client or every prospect. Everybody, there's always something. Whether you're renewing a membership, whether you're renewing insurance, whatever you guys are selling, there's contracts that are being renewed every year. So there's always something. And a lot of salespeople think, oh, well, gosh, I just talked to him. I don't need to talk to him for a couple of years. Well, that's okay, because a couple of years will be here. And I have learned a long time. When I was 22 years old and I got out of college, I lived in Dallas. And this is the next thing I want to talk about. I learned from a sales manager, which is another point, is that you can learn from anybody. The sales manager that I had was a jerk. He was a bad guy. I was selling advertising in a trade magazine. But he taught me one thing that I want to explain to you guys that I've remembered for 33 years, and I'm getting older, hopefully I'll remember it for a few more years, and that is what he called the tube. And so if you could envision a cylinder, doesn't matter how wide it is or round it is, the diameter, it goes on for a mile, and you keep putting in clients' names, prospects' names, those kinds of things in there, and you keep track of those clients and prospects as they move along. This is a visual exercise. Some of them move along like this. The point is, eventually some of them will come out the other end as orders or clients. Now, so think of this every day. This is what I think about every day, is I've got, let's just say 100 prospects, 100 clients, 100 projects I'm working on in my flooring business. Well, I might meet you and you say, I need new flooring for my building. Next day you buy it. That's pretty unlikely in my business. It's a high-ticket item. It's different if you're selling pencils or pens. They buy it right away. So if you could envision this tube that goes on for a long time, and you keep putting this information in there, some clients or prospects will move along like this, and then you lose the project, so it comes out. No problem, come on in. Welcome. So some of the clients, some of the prospects will go through, and then they go backwards. I mean, you could be working on a project, work on a project, or a client, and then they say, you know what, I don't think we have the money, I don't think we have the interest, I don't think we're going to do it. So if you can visualize that tube system, it really works very well for you. The other thing I want to explain to you is what I call my two-tier file system. Again, a lot of you are going to think, I know a lot of you are a lot younger than I am, so you'll have different systems and you do things on the computer. But before I get to my point, there's a psychological difference between writing something down and typing it into the computer. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I understand a lot, and all of us in sales, believe me, you guys are all part-time psychologists figuring out this client. I mean, we have to figure them out. So that's an interesting thing to think about. So the system that I have is writing it down. So I would highly suggest that you guys think about writing things down, because it does make a difference whether you write it down or you put it into your computer, just typing it. So I have a two-tier system. So you guys tell me about a project, a building in Rio Rancho that's going to need some new flooring, which I'm in. And I say to you, here's another thing, I say to you, when would be the best time for me to follow up with you? That's a big psychological shift, and if I say, Andrew, I'll call you next month. And he's like, well, I don't really want you to call me next month. So I call next month, and then that annoys him. So if I say to Andrew or any of you, when would be the best time to follow up? That puts the onus on you. And then when I email you next month or 2 months from now, I say, I'm emailing and I'm following up now because this is the time you suggested when we met in December at the Visionaries Meeting, this is when you suggest it. So I actually write things on pieces of paper. I mean, I'm old-fashioned that way. So I have pieces of paper for every project or every client that I'm working on. I have a two-tier system. So the top system, or the top drawer, if you want to call it, is for projects happening this month. The bottom is for any project happening January down the road. Now, a lot of salespeople think, somebody tells me to follow up in June. And most people will forget it. They will never follow up again. But again, the person that keeps following up is the person that's going to be in that 20% that's going to get 80% of the revenue. So we all know that. I hope you guys know that. So what I do at the end of every month is I take out a bottom stack. Now, I've been doing this for 33 years, so the good news is I have a large stack. And now, so at the end of December, I'll take out this stack. And anything that says 1, in the upper right corner, I put the follow-up date. My code is FU 1/15. That means follow up. So anything that says 1/15, I'm going to take out and I'm going to move to the top file. Okay. Now at the end of every week, I go through the top file, and what I do is I'm prioritizing those. It's just like a funneling system, if you guys have heard of that type of thing. It's really all I'm doing. And so I can only do so much in one day. Everybody can only do so much in one day. So I prioritize it by a Monday of the week. So the Monday is the 1st, and then the next Monday is the 8th, whatever. I will pick out 10 of those to follow up that week, possibly. Okay? And I will put it into my weekly to-do calendar or file, if you will. And then the next ones I'll put in 1, 8, whatever. And so every week I'm doing that. The point is, you've always got these things to work on, which is a nice psychological thing to think about, is because a lot of salespeople and a lot of businesses, we panic. It's like, what do I have to work on now? What am I going to do next? But if you have a system, you're going to be very, feel very good about that. Again, my passion is making your system fun and profitable. We're going to make it your system, and it's going to be fun and profitable. I don't want you to use my system. You're going to come up with your own system, but that's kind of the idea. And then you're going to use it every day. I mean, that's the reality. You have to have a system that you love and that you embrace and that you will use every day. Let's see. And again, asking the clients when they want you to follow up is a very good thing to do. You never want to leave the clients guessing. That's something that is the salesperson's responsibility. If a client has to call you to say, when is my product or service or whatever going to show up, or I thought you were going to call me, that's not a good thing. You want to always be proactive and know when to contact each client, and so they know too. So if you have a shipment of material or something that's coming in, and let's say it's going to be late, let them know. I mean, be right up front with the client and let them know exactly the good, the bad, and the ugly. A lot of salespeople, and I'm in the, we ship carpeting, rolls of carpeting, and the mill messes up or something's late or things like that. So it's best, even if they're going to get upset, you can't control what someone else does, but it's best to be honest with them and let them know. I want to talk a little bit about the psychology of sales, your psychology and your clients. Most of us, it's tough to look in the mirror and say, wow, I've been doing this for a long time and that's not really working. And to change, that's a very difficult thing to do. So think about the psychology of yourself and the psychology of your client. I, as a salesperson, just the way my brain is wired, tend to talk a lot. I have learned over the years that we have 2 ears and we have 1 mouth, and if a salesperson, you can use that proportionately, we will be better. So if when I come in and talk to a client, I have a pad of paper now, which is a psychological thing for me that helps me. So when I come to any of your offices, if you're interested in possibly working with me, again, no charge, I'll just come to your office, we'll talk. I'm going to bring a pad of paper, and I'm going to say, tell me about your business. And my wife Judy here, who's videotaping this today, taught me the words tell me a long time ago, because when our kids were little, I remember my daughter especially, she'd bring home a little painting or drawing, and I didn't know what she was drawing. I'd say, what is that? And it didn't work too well. She got very upset. So I learned to say the words tell me, because if you say tell me what your drawing is for a little child, it doesn't matter what they say, just tell me. So I want to hear about your business and I will make notes. Most people listen with the intent to respond. Okay, that's a real critical thing also. We don't like dead space. So if 2 people are having a conversation and no one is talking, it feels weird. So what I do by the writing is if I'm talking or listening to any of you, I'm taking notes, and if you stop talking, I don't immediately look up at you, because that makes you feel pressured, like, okay, I better stop because it's his turn to talk. So I'll just keep looking down. It's okay for people to take that time to formulate their thoughts of what they're going to say next, and you want your client especially to keep talking. The more they talk, the more they feel comfortable with you. So taking notes is very important. Listening without the intent to respond. You're not an interviewer. You don't have to have that next question. Just let them keep talking. Seek to understand. We all have disagreements with family members, with clients, all those kinds of things. If you guys, I highly suggest you read the book if you haven't, by Steve Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. I love that. The one I want to talk to you about is, first, when there's a disagreement or anything, conflict, first seek to understand, then seek to be understood. What happens when there's an argument? You and anybody are disagreeing on something. Everybody wants to raise their voice and get their point out. Okay, that's the natural thing to do for everybody. The point is, if you're having a disagreement with someone, have a meeting and say, we have a disagreement, I would like to hear what you have to say about this. And take notes. Again, listen. It's not easy. Listen and take notes. And then, when they're totally finished, then repeat back to them. I understand this is the concerns that you have. It could be 10. Is that correct? Yes. Then say, I'd like to tell you how I feel about this. So it's a different psychological reversal, if you will. How loud we talk. I talk generally pretty loud. I have learned in meetings to talk softer. Not all the time. I'm not perfect, but I'm working on this. Because the reality is, you guys probably, most of you aren't old enough to remember the E.F. Hutton commercial, but E.F. Hutton, financial advisors, and right, you guys, anybody heard of E.F. Hutton? I don't know if they're still around. Well, they used to have an ad on TV, and the guy or woman would talk very softly. And the point of it is, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. So psychologically, if you talk softer, people are like, they pay attention in a crowded room. Things, if you talk softer, people will listen more. Looking at the client's eyes. A lot of salespeople and things like that, we look around, whatever, and I'm really, if you could focus on people's eyes, that shows them that you are interested in them. And let's face it, it's all about the client. It's not about us, the salesperson. It's all about them. And if they tell a story, a great story, we don't want to try to one-up them. If they don't care about us, really. If they ask, fine. If they're telling you a story and you're getting to know them, fine. They have all these accomplishments in their family, cool, good for them. But don't go and say, oh, you know what, I'm a better snowboarder, or whatever, I'm a better snowboarder than you. You don't want to do that kind of thing. Body movements. I've become very aware of my body movements. How much I move around, are we standing still? Those psychological things are very important. If you've ever been in a group and there's two people talking, and they're not facing each other. And let's say somebody's here facing this way. Sometimes the person will turn to face the person. And this is like a power thing. If somebody is, quote, over you and they're trying to, they're your boss, or they're trying to they have a psychological thing, they have to be the boss, they will not face you directly. And it's just a psychological thing, just like they'll want to be behind their desk, that type of thing. That's not necessarily a really good thing. Be willing to work on yourself. Again, if we can all look in the mirror and work on our own psychology, ask friends. That's the best way, is just say, what can I do to improve myself? It's really a good thing to work on. Have a sense of humor. Sales, we're all in sales, we're all selling something. You have to be able to laugh at yourself. You've got to be able to laugh at the client, hopefully when you're not in front of the client. But there's a lot of, it can be a lot of stress and a lot of tension, so try to keep a good sense of humor. Letters of recommendation in sales are very powerful, so I highly suggest that you get letters of recommendation. I learned this when I was 25 years old. I was playing golf with a guy, and I just getting ready to start my own business. And he just told me, Eddie, get letters of recommendation from everybody. If you don't like it, of course, throw it away. But it's so powerful to have letters of recommendation. Also, when someone takes the time to write a letter of recommendation for you, they care about you. If anybody in the world does something to help you, they care about you. If you ask them to write a letter of recommendation and they don't do it, they keep procrastinating, they probably don't care as much about you as you think they might. Now, sometimes they're just busy, and you might say to them, can I draft the letter? And you'll sign it, and they'll do that. So those are the things I wanted to talk about. Again, I'm happy to meet with any of you free of charge at your facility, or meet for coffee or whatever. I do have these books available, so, and we have the card reader, is that what it's called? Card reader, to run your credit cards. So if you're interested, they're $15. I have my cards up here. I will teach you to juggle, and that's it. So thank you very much. And I want to say a few minutes to get you out of the Any questions about what I talked about, or just anything regarding sales? Yeah, Michael.
What inspired you to write your book?
Okay. I've done volunteer work. Well, I've been thinking about it for a long time. For about the last 5 years, on and off, I've been doing volunteer work for an organization called SCORE, which is the Service Corps of Retired Executives. So it used to be a bunch of 90-year-old men that worked and gave help to you young people who think about starting a business or run a business. But now they have people of all ages that have expertise in this. I well know you young people know way more about computers and all kinds of things that I do. So there's, through the SCORE organization, they had me, after I was doing some counseling with people and mentoring, whatever you want to call it, they had me sit in on a day session to see what new people, or people that are thinking about starting a business, would listen to. So these people came in, they were thinking about starting a business, they had an attorney, an accountant, marketing person, a few other things. They had nobody talk about sales. And we all know that if nothing happens until somebody sells something. You can't manufacture anything. So anyway, at the first break, I went to the guy in charge and I said, you don't have anybody talking about sales. And he said, well, we can't find anybody qualified that really will do it. I'm like, hello? So I said right then, I'm going to write my book. I just thought this was a need. I mean, financially, I thought it would be good for me, which I think it's going to be. So the rest of the day, I spent writing my notes about all the things that I've talked to you guys about, the tube and my organizational system and the psychology of sales and how I treat people and how I fire clients sometimes, which I didn't really talk about, but that's something else. So that's kind of how I did it. So I wrote all my notes. And then there was a lady in the group that was a writer. I'm not a writer by training. I mean, they're all my thoughts and my ideas, but she helped me organize it into chapters and topics and things like that. So that's how I decided to actually do it. Yes, sir.
You mentioned 7 habits of highly effective people. Mm-hmm. What book are you currently reading?
What book am I currently reading? That's a good question. I'm not a big reader. I read things like Reader's Digest and I read the paper. I'm not a novel reader. So,
well, as far as, I guess, back
as far as the sales in general?
Yeah, is there a book that maybe you recommend recently?
My book.
Well, you sold that one.
You know what? I got to tell you guys, I read it, and it's really a pretty good book. and it's a short read. To answer your question, I don't have anything off the top of my head right now that I'm specifically reading on sales. I've read the book that the guy at Southwest Airlines wrote called Nuts. I don't know if you saw that. It's been out several years. But I'm not reading anything probably currently at this particular moment. So, yes, Don.
Well, not a question, but just a comment on something that Eddie said about taking notes. And as we build relationships, one of the important things to do that is to pick up on things that are important to that person. So we heard in there that his wife's name is Judy. Well, if you're in a discussion with somebody and you know that he's got things here, or you can talk about his kids or whatever, things that are important to him will help build that relationship, and it's just worth to take notice of because it might have been a birthday or whatever it is.
No, that's a very good point. In fact, a lot of the things that I write down, people tell me about their hobbies or their families. I mean, let's face it, people buy from people. So, and this is getting into more stuff I won't spend a lot of time, but when the first time you meet with somebody, whatever you're selling or whatever the product or service is, they know what you're there for. So when you walk into their room, what I always do is I look on the wall or their desk or something, and I'll see a fishing trophy or a picture of a child or something. And I'll say, that's a pretty picture or whatever, to get them to talk, because once they feel comfortable with you, you're much more likely to sell them whatever product or service you have. So, no, you're exactly right.
Ideally, they have a life outside business.
Well, but again, you're trying to make that connection. I mean, to me, the worst thing that a salesperson can do is walk in and say, hi, I'm Eddy Mindlin, I'm here to talk to you about your flooring and things like that. They already know that. So again, if you could do something to break the ice and again get them to talk and ask an open-ended question, that's really good. Any other questions?
Thanks, Eddie. I actually got a chance to buy a copy of Eddie's book, and I'm
about 3/4 of the way through it. It's an easy read, really practical knowledge of the sales pipeline. It's an outstanding tool to help you stay organized. So definitely pick up a copy if you guys get a chance. So,
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
I'll be around afterwards, or, you know, and my wife's got the card reader, so we'll do that. Thank you guys for your time.
Again, don't forget, we have the camp food drive going on and buy your Christmas party tickets